chapter 9, verse 1, we see that God gives Noah a blessing and a command. And so does he, and he does that as well in Genesis chapter 9, verse 7. Both times he says, be fruitful and multiply and fill the whole earth. Right? Noah has just landed on the ark. It's just in that long one-year storm, and he's finally landed. And God blesses him and commands him to fill the whole earth. This is where our story begins, right? And many of us, we understand how Noah feels, right? We've been given blessings in our life, and then we've been given some kind of command to follow it. Most of you here know at least one instrument. You've been asked to, or given the opportunity, or forced to play at least one instrument. And honestly, it's a blessing. There's a lot of people who don't get that opportunity. But at the same time, with that blessing, it comes with the task and the command that your parents have given you to practice, to perform in front of people. Same thing with sports, right? Some of us have the opportunity to learn a sport, but then again, it comes with the task or the command to do well, to practice, to attend the competitions. For some of you, you have phones. You've been blessed with a phone. And yet, your parents have given you the task or the expectation that you won't always be on it, that you'll learn how to use it in moderation. You kind of get what it feels like to have a blessing and then be given a command. That's where we're at right now. And then in Genesis chapter 10, as Elder David preached last time, we heard about all the descendants. So they actually did do this, right? They went and had a bunch of kids. They went and had a bunch of kids in Genesis chapter 10, and they spread out. And then we have Genesis 11, verses 10 to 26, where they also did that. But Genesis 11, 1 to 9, all of a sudden talks about a completely different story. Let's all flip there now. Genesis chapter 11. And the story begins with verse 1. You see, now the whole earth had one language and the same words. In verse 2, and as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. Okay, God gave them a command. God gave them a blessing, and so they're moving, right? So they have been, so this is like Turkey, Egypt down there. The Mount Ararat is up there, and they slowly start moving, start spreading out. And then they find themselves this nice open area, and they're thinking to themselves, this is a great place to build a city. Not like the mountains where everything's rocky and all that stuff. They found an open space which is perfect for building. And so that's what they do. In verse 3, what do they say? They say, and they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Now, how many of you know how to make bricks? Probably what though? Why do you guys know how to make bricks? So why do you know how to make bricks? Besides microwaves. Oh, great. Well, the thing about making bricks is, in order to get the most durable and solid ones, you have to burn them very thoroughly. And as they go through the heat, they compact, become harder. And so we have some good bricks here. And then bitumen is basically what we call asphalt nowadays. And asphalt is very good at warding off weather. And so the people here, they had a good knowledge and a good understanding of what they needed to do in order to build good structures. And with that knowledge, they decided to say, then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. Nothing wrong with that, right? Anybody would want to build a city and build a tower. Doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with it. The problem comes next. You see, the purpose in which they wanted to build a tower is that they wanted to say, let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. Right from the start, their purpose in trying to build this city, build this tower, starts off with this line. Let us make a name for ourselves. They wanted people to know that this tower that they're making, they did it on their own. We did this. They want people to see that tower, see how tall it is, and be like, and remember that they were the ones who built it. Not just that. They wanted their tower to be so tall that the tops of it was in heaven. just a general idea of who lives in heaven. Normally, we think that God does. They wanted to build this tower to be as high as where God is. They wanted people to know that they were able to do what God could do. They could be where God was. They wanted to be God-like. You see, the people here have fallen for the sin of pride. They wanted people to know that this is how capable they are. This is how able they are. The thing is this. When you're at church, your parents, your pastor, your youth sponsors, they probably tell you that you have to become like Christ. The goal of Christians is that we're trying to become like God. What's the difference between that and that? You see, when we say that you have to become like God, become like Christ, what we're saying is you have to start and try to emulate the characteristics of God. God's love, His grace, His mercy, His patience. For them, they didn't want to become like God. They wanted to become God-like. They wanted to become God Himself. They wanted people to see them as being capable to do exactly what God was able to. They wanted to be praised for it. When I look at the word pride, I know every single person here knows this friend all too well. Each of us has done things so that we would get praised for it. For those of you who do well in school, how nice is it when you get a good grade and everybody else doesn't do that well? And I didn't study that hard. It just happened. Or maybe when you're playing an instrument and everyone else is like, wow, that was the best I've ever heard, and then you're like, I didn't really practice that much. Whether that be true or not, how deep are you fishing for that compliment? How deep are you fishing for that praise? We all know this friend all too well. But that's not all that the people who are building the Tower of Babel did. Because next, what they said was, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. Now, if you remember 5 minutes ago, we just looked at Genesis chapter 9, verse 1, where God had said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the whole earth. This is a direct rejection of God's command. A direct rejection of God's blessing and task for them. They were saying, sure, God, you might be saying this, but look at us here. We've built a nice place for ourselves. We got this nice tall tower. We're comfortable here. Why would we want to go out there where nobody's inhabiting it? Why would we want to go somewhere and start a new life? That's just so much work. Not only were they rejecting God's command, they were also falling into complacency. Now, the word complacency is probably one that not a lot of you are very familiar with at the moment, but you guys all know it's the close relative procrastination. All of you here are probably experts at procrastination. Did you know that there's two types of it? One is called short-term procrastination, and this is the one you're more familiar with. This is when you have that project, that homework assignment, that essay, that worship set that you have to set up, the small group lesson that you have to prep, and then you wait and put it off till the last day before you do it. I mean, every single one of us here has started a new school semester. Your teacher has given you an essay or a project that you have to do, and so you're like, new year, new me, I'm going to plan each and every step that I'm going to take. First month I'm going to do this, second month I'll do this, and then the third month it'll just be corrections and I'll just hand it in. But then the first month goes by, and it just so happened that you didn't start. And so you're like, okay, don't worry, I got this. Second and third month, I'm really gonna get this down. And the second month goes by, and now you're in your last month. You're like, okay, it's due soon, I need to get this done. And then the third month, you come down to the last week. And this is when you're calling up all your friends, trying to ask if they've started it yet, trying to see if they know what to do, so they can give you some help. But then 3 days before it's due, that's when you really start working on it. Or maybe the night before, depending on how fast you can write or work. And then you hand it in, last minute, finishing it up, And the teacher calls you and tells you that that's the best work you've ever done. No, that just, maybe. But no, that's probably not what happens most of the time. The reality is we are all too familiar with this short-term procrastination. We are all participants in it. But now the second one, this is long-term procrastination. Another word for complacency. And this is when we have those life goals, or those things that we want to achieve, but they seem too big, too vast for me to do. Maybe some of us have started thinking about what kind of colleges you want to go to. And you're slowly picking up the classes, the grades, the extracurriculars, trying to make yourself look good however you can, so that when the college sees your application, they'll be like, I guess we can take them. That's being proactive, right? That's doing what you can do to get there. And yet, complacency and long-term procrastination is the opposite. Yes, you'll still have those goals, right? Someone who is complacent still has goals. They still have things that they want to do. But where they're at right now, that's just too comfortable. Where you're at right now, that's just too convenient. Yeah, sure, I want to be a doctor someday or a lawyer, or maybe someday I want to learn how to play guitar or learn a different instrument. But right now, I'm okay. Right now, I mean, like it'll happen tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. Or I'll start the next week. The task seems too big. You're not necessarily satisfied with where you're at. You know you can change. You know you can grow. You know there are things you can do. But just right now, I'm okay with where I'm at. Right now, it's comfortable. Complacency is that feeling when we're just comfortable where we're at, not willing to step out. But it doesn't just affect our goals in our lives. The reason we're talking about it today is because it also affects each and every one of your spiritual lives. When I was a senior in high school, I had just rededicated my life to Christ during the summer because I went on a nice retreat and things happened and God met me there, all that good stuff. And while I was starting my senior year, as I was hanging out with my friends, more and more the topic of Christianity would just randomly pop up. It'd be something simple like, oh, yo, why can't you hang out again on Sunday? Like, hey, you're Christian, right? So that means you can't do this or this. Or, hey, you're Christian, why are you acting like X, Y, and Z? I mean, we've all heard something similar, or different kinds of things. Some kind of question that seems to trigger a topic of Christianity. And being the sensible high schooler I was, I tried to get out of that conversation as quickly as possible. I mean, I don't want to be that guy who talks about God. I don't want to be that guy who talks about my religion all the time and pretends like I know it all. And so I give the classic answers, yeah, my parents tell me to go to church on Sunday, obviously. I was yeah, I know, yeah, sure, the Bible probably says something about that, but I don't know. Looking back at it, I can now see that those were opportunities that God was giving me to stand up for my faith, giving me opportunities to talk about it. And yet, what did I know? All I did was try to shrug it off. With my favorite line is, when I hear this, I'm just thinking, I don't know. But I would hear this and I would say this. And what I would say is, sure, I'm a Christian, but I'm not that religious. What does that even mean? I'm Christian, but I'm not that religious. The reality is, I didn't know. And I thought that I wouldn't have all the answers. So it's just easier for me to avoid the conversation. It's outside of my comfort zone. And how about for you? You see, God prompted my heart many times, but each time I thought it was easier to walk away. How about for you? Have you ever felt that prompting? The fact that you guys are Christian and in high school or in middle school means that you've had people try to bring this up once or twice. The fact that you have to be here on Sundays and Fridays and you can't hang out with your friends means that these conversations will come up. But how do you respond? Right? The reality is, pride and complacency both stand in direct opposition with God. The people, when they were building the Tower of Babel, Their desires were for pride. Their desires were for complacency, for rejection of who God was. And that stands in direct opposition with God. And so when that happens, God responds. And I know that I've told you guys a lot from Genesis about the characteristics of God. God is loving, merciful, keeps his promises, patient. From the next 5 verses, what I see is that God is a jokester. God is a troll. The next few lines just reveals God's character as being someone who just likes to mess with our minds. Because what he says in verse 5 is this: "And the Lord God came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built." Now, I want you guys to look at verse 4. What does verse 4 say? Vincent, can you read verse 4 for me? Oh, in your... Okay, I see. Go ahead. Yeah.
Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower which is up in the heaven."
Okay. Their intention was a tower that had its tops in heaven. And if that's where God resides, and if that's how high the tower is, you would think that God would be able to see it. But the reality is, God had to come all the way down just to be able to see what was going on. He's like, "Oh, that's what you were building? A tower?" It was so insignificant to him that he had to come all the way down just to say it. And Moses portrayed this really well. What mankind thought was their best achievement, was the highest tower that was reaching into heaven, God couldn't even notice. And had to come down to check out. And what he does next, he says, "And the Lord said, Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them." See, God recognizes that as long as they're staying together like this, and working together like this, it seems that they'll be able to accomplish anything. But what I think God is really saying here is that he's recognizing that as long as they keep achieving things like this on their own, that's what they're going to think it is. That it was by their power that they can do it. And so what does he do? He messes them up. He goes and says, "Let us go down and confuse their language so that they may not understand one another's speech." He goes down and says, "You speak English, you speak Mandarin, you speak French, Greek, Hebrew, Japanese." Everybody was given new languages. And when they did, the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. I mean, if you can't understand each other, how are you going to build the city? God spread them all out, and they weren't able to communicate, weren't able to understand each other. And that's why this place is called Babel. You see, because there the Lord confused the language of all the people of earth. And from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth. Now here's a little history nugget of gold thingamajiggy. Babel, for the Babylonians, meant the gate of God. Right? Because they thought that this is the Tower of Babel, this is where they tried to get into heaven. And yet, in the Hebrew language, what Babel means is to be mixed up, is to be confused. And that's what we see happening to the people. You see, right here and now, even though the people of Noah's descendants wanted to build and be close to each other, God, at the end of the day, spread them all out. At the end of the day, God said, "This is my blessing to you. This is my command." That's what's going to happen. You can try to be all uptight, but he threw them outside of their comfort zone. And many times that happens to us, right? We have, as much as we try to be in a place where we're comfortable. But when we can't, we get thrown out. Like when you have to change schools. You don't have a choice of whether or not you want to change schools sometimes. You're just thrown out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you don't have a choice of whether you have to move to a new place. That's your parents' choice. Maybe you don't have a choice of the new friends that you're going to have to make. A lot of times we're thrown outside of our comfort zone. And God uses that. Because God's command to them was to go and grow. He has the same command for us. But something happened. You see, for Noah, his job, their jobs was to go and be fruitful, which means to have a bunch of children. That was literally it. They were supposed to have kids. And then they're supposed to fill the whole earth. How about for us? Is that our goal then? Is the goal of every person here to go and make babies and then fill the earth? I don't know. I think that job is being done pretty well, but was done pretty well already. Something happens in between Noah's descendants to us today that gave us a different command. If you haven't noticed where I'm going with this, around 2,000 years ago, a good old man named Jesus came down, died on the cross to glorify God for our sins, and in his resurrection, he said this: "Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." When Jesus came around, he gave us a new command and a new blessing. The blessing is this: "And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." Friends will leave you, family will leave you, God will never leave you. That's his blessing. And then his command is to go and make disciples. The reality is this: many of us here probably have never even considered or even want to talk about God. Especially not at school. That's the last topic that you want to bring up. And for those of you, maybe for some of you, you wouldn't mind, right? If your friends just so happen to bring it up, or the circumstances just so happen to click, you wouldn't mind. But most of us are more willing to sit comfortably within our four walls, waiting for someone to walk in. Oh yeah, if a non-Christian walks in, then great, Pastor Joseph will talk to him. Pastor Paul will talk to him. Elder David or Charlie will talk to him. Or Andrew. Let's leave it to them, right? We barely know what we believe in anyway. We barely know about the Bible. We're more comfortable sitting back and letting someone else do the job. I don't know where it says here, let Pastor Joseph do all the evangelizing. The reality is this: each and every one of you sitting here today who has accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior has a greater strength than you understand, and has a greater responsibility than you can know. Each and every one of you has a power of the Holy Spirit. And there's more. Who better, let's say, who better to reach out to someone, a teenager who's in high school or middle school? It's definitely not a pastor like me or an old pastor like Pastor Paul. I didn't call him old. It's definitely not someone like Charlie or Andrew. Right? Granted, you guys come, we can give you guys advice, we can teach you guys, we can guide you guys in life. We've probably gone through a bunch of things, maybe gone through nothing, but we can give some guidance, right? That'd be great for a middle schooler or high schooler to know. The person who can best relate to another teenager who's in high school or middle schooler is another teenager who's in high school or middle school, which is just so happens to be the people sitting in front of me right now, besides three of you. The reality is this: each and every one of you has a greater strength and knowledge to share than me, Charlie, Andrew, Elder could ever do, especially for someone who is closer to your age. I can try as best I can, and I can try to relate, and I probably can to some degree. You guys are the ones who they're friends with. You guys are the ones who would understand. Each and every one of you has that ability, has that opportunity. The question is, are you willing to stand up to a challenge? The point that we see today is that the people who were building the Tower of Babel, they had pride, they had complacency, and that stood in direct opposition with God. They let their pride and their complacency, their comfortability overwhelm them from their desire, the desire to follow God. And how about for us? I want us to know this. Don't let your comfort and your security supersede the desire that God has placed in your heart. the opportunities that God has given you. Don't let complacency rule your lives. And I'm not telling you right now that everyone has to go out and be missionaries. If you do want to do that at some point, great, right? I'm not telling you that every single one of you now has to go to China and start evangelizing, or go to your schools and start like handing out pamphlets and telling everyone about Jesus. If you do end up doing that, like, I guess that's great. But what I want to do is let's be practical. Let's take it a small step. I don't know how many of us are at that level. Let's take what's the first step, right? Last week, I taught you guys about a workshop about prayer. And the first step is always the desire and the willingness for it. And then it becomes, the next step is, stand up. When a friend comes up to you to ask you, so it just so happens to trigger a conversation about Christianity, don't shy away from the conversation. I'm not saying you have to know all the answers to give them. I'm not saying that you have to tell them the whole gospel message or recite the Bible to them. I'm saying be willing to converse. I'm telling you, be willing to be in this conversation with them. If you don't know, say you don't know. But don't try to run away from it. Be bold. Don't let complacency, comfortability hold you back. And each and every one of you has the power to do this. The Holy Spirit is in every single one of you who says that they accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And that's better than 1,000 words that I can tell you. Each and every one of you are capable. You just need to stand up. Don't be complacent. Don't be comfortably complacent. But instead, be obedient and go. That's the command that Jesus gave to us. Go. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for the work that you've done in our lives, for the opportunities you've given us, whether we've seen it or we've let it pass by. And today, what I want to pray is that you continue to fill each and every one of them here with the power of the Holy Spirit. That God, for those of them here who have accepted you into their life, that Lord, what you fill them with now is strength. Imbue them with energy so that when they go forth, they don't have to think it's just them. They don't have to think that they're alone in this. God, you've given them a calling, you've given them a blessing, you've given them a task. Give them the courage to stand up. Give them the strength to walk out from their complacency and into obedience to you. Pray all this and ask. In your son's name. Amen.